Hello, everyone. My name is Manu Prasanna, and I'm a product manager at Avaamo. Before Avaamo, I worked at various Silicon Valley companies on cloud automation. Welcome to this two-part webinar series on how to build conversational AI applications. Conversational AI has the potential to change the way you do business and build relationships with your customers, your employees, and stakeholders. But these systems will not build themselves yet. In this two-part series, you will learn about conversational AI and the nuances to design experiences that are effective, memorable, and delightful. You will also learn to train high-performing machine learning and natural language processing models. We will then show you how to identify your first use case and how to build a roadmap to roll out conversational AI in your organization. We shall then learn about how conversational AI is helping our customers make great strides with their employees, their customers, and their supply chain. In this first part, there are three things that we will look at: technology basics, setting clear business goals, and project scoping. To run you through the technology basics, I'm going to invite my colleague and resident Avaamo genius, Abhi.
All right. Thank you, Manu. As by way of a quick introduction to myself, my background is in neuroscience and natural language processing, and now I lead some of our artificial intelligence and conversational AI efforts on the product side with Avaamo. So today, kind of as my part of this puzzle here, we're going to be going over some of the basics, right, of understanding language and why it is that it's so difficult to solve the hard problem of language and build complex conversational AI workflows and automate some of these complex conversational AI conversations that we want to be having with our users. So as an overview, we'll be digging into entities, intents, kind of defining those terms, and then we'll drive towards the goal of developing multi-turn conversations and understanding language as kind of the precursor to being able to do that. All right. So starting kind of really at the beginning, right? In 2012 is really where we were starting to be able to understand the true power of deep learning in the computer vision realm. So on the top left here, we're seeing an image which is categorizing object detection, which is a task in classical computer vision that allows a machine learning system to be able to localize an object in this scene and then label it, in this case, with a person or a car or a truck. Now, this level of kind of advanced object detection capability was not really possible until the advent of deep learning and kind of the utilization of deep learning really in 2012. Now, a similar kind of breakthrough moment happened for natural language processing and language in general in about 2018 with kind of the use of universal language models, right? And so we're starting to see some of the similar breakthroughs and this reckoning for language that we saw in computer vision kind of take place for our industry as well. Now, the next thing, however, is not just to be able to understand language, but to be able to build intelligent dialogue and conversational agents. And that's going to be the focus of today's conversation. So why is it that conversational AI is in fact so difficult? Well, there's three overarching pieces that we're going to need to discuss to really get to the answer of that question. All right, so the first piece is that language itself is a very nuanced and complex beast to tackle. All right, so we'll get into why that is and tease apart what makes it very difficult for computers to understand language. And the second piece that we'll tackle is this idea of entities. We'll define what they are. We'll start to understand why it's so difficult, again, for a computer to be able to extract concepts from language. And that's what makes entities so difficult. So we'll dig into that. And then last but not least, we'll dig into why even building a layer on top of that, why intent is kind of the most complex piece of the puzzle, understanding the goal of the user. And we'll see kind of how that becomes an issue for conversational AI and how we can tackle that as well. So starting at the top, right, we're gonna do this kind of in an interesting way. Together, we'll work through an example of a complex user sentence, and then we'll tease apart what makes this, in fact, a difficult thing for a computer to understand. Right? Something like this is going to be very easy for a human being, but in fact becomes more complex for a computational system. So the example that we're going to take a look at is from the healthcare space. So the sentence, I'll just kind of read it out loud here. Last night, I got bit by a dog out grocery shopping, and it was a nice dog, but now I definitely need stitches. Where's urgent care? Close by would be nice. Now, kind of convoluted sentence, but we get the gist of it, right? This individual is hurt, probably needs stitches, and they're looking for an urgent care. Very easy for us to understand. Now, what makes this difficult for a computer to understand? Let's take a look at that. Well, the first piece of the puzzle here that we have to solve is that there's spelling mistakes, right? Where's kind of is misspelled, urgent is misspelled. To our eyes, that's pretty easy to resolve, but for a computer, that it's very easy to get tripped up right there. And kind of close by would be nice. That's not really a sentence. It's barely a phrase, and so kind of a complexity that we can see would be difficult for a computer to understand right there. The next kind of piece here is going to be parts of speech and word sense. This is another reason why language is very nuanced, very difficult. In this case, the individual has stated, where's urgent care? Now, are they talking about care that is urgent, that they need care urgently? Or is urgent care, in fact, a noun, right? We need to understand whether we're dealing with an adjective or a noun in this case. And then in this case, where we'll kind of focus on the word close, word sense means, understanding what is the actual definition of a word in context. So in this case, does close mean closed as in the store is closed, or is it close as in nearby? Right? So we can resolve that by looking at the word next to it, but this in fact adds a little bit more color into why this is such a difficult task for a computational system to understand, this kind of convoluted sentence. Kind of the third piece of the puzzle here is the context in this sentence, right? For any conversational AI system that's going to try to understand this sentence or the sequence of sentences, we're going to need to know what is important and what's extra, what's unnecessary in this piece that's uttered or kind of written by a user. So in this sentence, right, last night I got bit by a dog out grocery shopping. First of all, that's grammatically incorrect, so we've already seen why that makes it difficult. But the other piece here that's going to add complexity is the fact that we're mentioning it was last night, that I was in fact bitten by a dog, and I was out grocery shopping. Now the important piece here is going to be that I got bit, right? But not that I was out grocery shopping. And indeed, even in the next sentence here, the fact that it was a nice dog is really irrelevant to the goal that the user is expressing in this sentence. Now, without belaboring the point, we can see why these kinds of nuances would make a sentence like this more difficult to understand. And while it's very easy, again, for a human being to parse out the meaning here, it is very difficult for a computational system to arrive at the same conclusion that a person might. The last piece of the puzzle in kind of understanding the meaning of this sequence of sentences and to extract the meaning from that is the domain, right? When a person says that they're out grocery shopping, is this full sentence now about the domain of retail? Is it about groceries? Well, no. Is it about stitches? Is it about urgent care? Oh, it seems like we're starting to get closer now. We can understand that it's about healthcare, right? So understanding the industry vertical or the domain that the particular sequences of sentences are referring to is a crucial component in being able to tease apart what you might want to do next, right? It's not enough just to understand the sentence and to tease out the meaning. It's also important to understand what we're going to do next once we do get that understanding. And so the domain here becomes very crucial in kind of resolving the ambiguity in this type of phrase. Now, before I jump on to the next section, as a recap, right, this is what makes language very, very difficult, is all of these nuances, spelling mistakes, grammar, context, domain, and understanding how to solve this becomes critical in kind of building a complex and robust conversational AI system. The next piece of the puzzle, kind of moving above the layer of the raw language, is understanding the concepts that might be useful in kind of building these conversational AI systems. So in our case, right, we're dealing with the healthcare domain in this situation. So the kinds of things that we're going to care about are words and concepts that are related to the healthcare domain. Now, in this situation, this is a healthcare symptoms kind of entity type, right? And inside this entity type, we have a number of different entities, including abdominal issue, ear problem, blood pressure issue, right? These are entities, these are concepts that we've extracted from, understanding language that's related to healthcare in the past. Now, why is this important? Well, if we can understand the concepts in a given phrase or in a given sequence of sentences, then we can start to build an understanding of what it is that users might want to accomplish with that sentence going forward, and how could we build a potentially complex dialogue agent to tackle more complex workflows in the future. Now, we're talking about this in the realm of healthcare, but you can easily kind of translate this to mean entities in different domains as well, including banking, retail, finance. And so understanding entities becomes crucial in determining what domain it is that we're talking about, and then extracting the pieces of that domain that we might want to use in conversation going forward. The other big reason why entities are kind of crucial and a big piece of this puzzle in understanding language for conversational AI applications is that entities can actually form the basis for dialogue in the future. For example, if I'm having a conversation with a patient and I can understand that they're having a blood pressure issue, this information can inform future decisions that I make as I have that conversation with the patient, right? And so the conversational AI agent or the dialogue agent that's interacting with the patient can use entities to restructure the flow of the conversation, to extract important information for downstream fulfillment purposes. If we're integrating in the back end to some Epic system or a health record system to then put in a note for my primary care physician, this is the kind of information we'd want to put into that note. And so you can see why entities become really, really crucial in the conversational AI puzzle, and why, in fact, they are very difficult to extract because they constitute a compression of the information that's available into these conceptual buckets. Looking even a layer higher than that, we'll start to dig into what are intents here and why that's even more difficult. An intent, loosely defined, is really the goal of a user in any given conversation. So for example, in an utterance, I got bit by my dog. I'd like to find the nearest urgent care. What you're looking for is an urgent care. So the intent is find an urgent care or find a clinic. Right, so here we can see a few examples. We can see find clinics and a specialty, find immunization records, find an event, or show appointments. These are intents that define what it is that a user might want to accomplish in any given conversation. So now when a conversational AI agent is being designed and built and learning over time, intents become the waypoints by which that conversation tackles new use cases. Right. So in the original use case that we were talking about, where there's an individual who was bitten by a dog and they're looking for an urgent care, by understanding their intent, teased apart from the rest of the context of that of that conversation, meaning teased apart from the fact that they were grocery shopping, teased apart from the fact that they were this was last night, that it was a nice dog. kind of focusing in on the intent that the user has, which is that they would like to go to an urgent care, really helps resolve the conversation and makes that conversational AI agent all the more successful at eventually fulfilling that goal, which is actually finding, right? Then the next goal is to find an urgent care for that individual. And so intents actually are even more difficult to uncover when dealing with conversational AI applications than entities and in the underlying language, because again, kind of following the theme here, intents are an even more higher layer of abstraction on top of the language, right? The first layer of abstraction is the entity, where we're understanding concepts. Then the next layer of abstraction is we combine entities, our understanding of the language, to get to an intent, where we're understanding the goal of the user. So you can see that by building up from the bottom, understanding the language first, then understanding entities, and then finally understanding intents, we can start to get robust understanding of the overall use case and overall goal for the user. So let's now kind of quickly talk about how we would solve something like this at a high level without getting into some of the weeds here. And the key thing I'd like to distinguish here is the idea of NLP versus NLU, right? NLP is natural language processing, where we're actually trying to tease apart the underlying language. This is parts of speech. This is understanding, is it a verb? Is it an adjective? Dependency parsing, which word depends on another word previously stated in a sentence. At that level, that's natural language processing, and that allows us to understand the syntax of the underlying language. Now, we want to move beyond that, right? We want to move beyond natural language processing into the territory of natural language understanding, but we're actually getting to machine comprehension, right? Computational comprehension of the underlying language. And really, as I mentioned earlier, kind of in 2018, the shift from being able to do classical and statistical natural language processing into more deep learning based approaches for natural language understanding, that's where that shift started to take place. And now in 2020, we're able to build as an industry on top of all of those breakthroughs to tackle complex dialogue, multi-turn conversations, and conversational AI applications at the level that we would want to solve complex business use cases and complex use cases in various different domains and industries. So what that looks like, right, at the syntactic level is going to follow a sequences of tokenization, breaking the word down into its prefixes, suffixes, understanding verbs, adverbs, parts of speech. That would be more syntactic parsing, and that's really where the industry started, right? And that's where we take, this is an example from computer vision, but a similar kind of example can be applied for natural language processing, where you start at the level of the language, you break it down so that a computational system can understand that language. And then we start applying a layer of semantic parsing on top, where we're starting to understand the sentiment, right? Is it positive? Is it negative? Being able to answer questions from a document or from that sequence of sentences, being able to summarize that sentence, and then finally being able to, at the kind of more complex end of the spectrum, being able to generate multi-turn and complex dialogue from that language. And so this is really how you build a framework for solving the complexity of language, is by starting at the syntactic level, which the industry did prior to 2018, and now kind of post 2018, working in this more deep learning era to be able to do it at the level of language meaning and semantic parsing. And so what is at the end of the tunnel, right? When we can do something like this, what does it mean for conversational AI systems in 2020, right? So when you're trying to build a conversational AI system, you want to work with a partner such as Avaamo that can get you to a place where all of this heavy lifting of syntactic parsing, semantic parsing, understanding the language, understanding the meaning, extracting the entities, extracting the intents, all of that is abstracted away so that we can focus on use cases. So in 2020, right, conversational AI has gotten to the point where we're now able to focus on use cases. And this is the outcome of something that we saw earlier, right? The sentence last night, I got bit by a dog out grocery shopping. I definitely need stitches. Close by would be nice. Taking all of that, extracting the entities, extracting the intents, understanding what the user is trying to do, gets us to the place where now the assistant, the virtual agent, can respond with, go ahead and tell me your closest city or tell me your location. This will help me narrow my search for healthcare locations. For now, I can search within Colorado. You can go ahead and share your location, right, by clicking this button, or you can share or you can use the previous location that you used in the context of this conversation. Now, I'm going to pause here and actually break down what it is that we're looking at, right? This is a multi-turn dialogue, right, that an agent is having, a virtual assistant is having with a user. This is the user conversation, this is the virtual assistant. And this is really at the end of a long road of research and development and lots of understanding of intents, entities. All of that comes down and gets prepackaged into this conversation that the end user experiences, right? That the patient experiences. And this really is both the promise and the goal of conversational AI. Solving the complexity in language, solving the complexity in entities and intents gets us to the end of this road where we're now able to respond to complex user queries and complex user utterances in a natural language way, understanding the context of what they're talking about, being able to tease apart the signal from the noise, and being able to do this in a context aware fashion. So what do I mean by context aware, right? Now that we understand the language, now that we understand the domain, that it's in healthcare, now that we understand that the user's intent is that they're looking for an urgent care, how can we add even more to it, right? That's where a platform like Avaamo takes all of this natural language understanding and applies a layer of conversational intelligence on top to be able to provide support, such as remembering when a user is coming back to a conversation, remembering when a user has asked for the same location in the past, right? These are the elements of conversational intelligence that rely on this base layer of natural language understanding to really take a conversation that might have been stilted, might have been, a very basic back and forth with an automated chatbot into the realm of something truly delightful, something truly interesting, and something that really gets the user to experience a conversation with a virtual assistant that kind of has a lot more intelligence than something that would represent a mere chatbot. And really, that's not where we would want to stop, right? So far we've seen a use case, right, in the realm of healthcare, and in one language, right, English. And that's where a lot of companies, lots of kind of companies will stop, and they'll call it a day. That's the provider, that's the offering that a company will have, and that's it, right? But we kind of at Avaamo have pushed ourselves to go a lot further than that. Not only do we want to tackle many different languages, but we also want to tackle many different use cases, not only in healthcare, but in banking, in retail, in finance, in insurance, not only in English, but in Mandarin, in Japanese, in German, in French, right? So this is really the holy grail of natural language understanding, is how do we take all of this kind of teasing apart of syntax, lemmatization, tokenization, parts of speech, dependency parsing, all of this understanding of entities, the concepts in a particular vertical domain, understanding the intents, the goal of a user, right? What does that all mean if it doesn't solve use cases for people, and if it doesn't help automate the pieces of the business that would really move the needle for an organization, big or small? And that's really the goal of Avaamo, and that's where partnering with an organization like ours can really help accelerate how we bring conversational AI to more organizations, how we take conversational AI from being something that's just theory on paper into something that's really applicable in the real world. And with that, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining our webinar today. And I'm going to hand it back to you, Manu. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Abhi. Now, let's look at setting clear business goals. There are 3 business goals, so let's take a look. CX, or customer experience, is a key driver of business success. For example, mass market auto manufacturers that improve CX at one point on Forrester's CX index can gain more than $1 billion in additional revenue, according to a 2019 Forrester report. Improved customer experience may not translate into an immediate measurable dollar. However, if you're measuring your business metrics carefully, you will see an increased NPS score, an increased CSAT, or user satisfaction score. All of our customers report increases in NPS, CSAT, or user satisfaction scores when user adoption starts to pick up with their conversational assistants. The next metric is cost savings. Cost savings is the one or is the one driver that motivates organizations to deploy intelligent virtual assistants. The simplest way to set goals around cost savings is defining and reducing the cost of total transactions or total interactions. Cost savings can also be a result of a reduction in headcount due to automation, deflection numbers, such as call deflection or web chat session deflection. Business metrics for cost savings are measured in things like reduced cost per call, reduced average handle time, or reduction in headcount. You can tell we help you with your bottom line, but we could also help you with your top line. If you pick a use case like Sales Assistant or Product Finder, we can help your consumers find and buy the right products more efficiently. Since we are deployed in many different channels like web, mobile, social media, and telephone, we can help you drive more traffic and also help with conversion rates. This results in revenue growth. You can see this show up as an increase in online orders per month or increase in orders for products suggested by the intelligent virtual assistant. So what's your goal? The choice is yours. Improved customer experience is seen across the board with our use cases. Pick between cost savings and revenue growth, and also decide what business metrics you are going to measure, right? So you should know exactly the metrics that you're going to measure and what they're going to be. Then you got to ask yourself, who are you serving? There are three types of end users you can serve using a conversational AI platform like Avaamo. One is your customer or your end consumer, whether that's a patient in healthcare or a student in education or a consumer of a product your company makes. You know your customers best. Next is your employees. These are the people that work for you. You want to make them more productive, and you want to make them as productive, safe, and effective as possible. The third type of end user persona a conversational AI platform like Avaamo serves is a member of any one of your partner organizations or supply chain. The Avaamo platform is built to serve all these personas. So if you're starting out on your conversational AI journey, who do you want to serve first is entirely up to you. Next, let's look at project scoping. I'm going to take you through a list of things for you to think about first. The first type of conversation that a conversational platform like Avaamo can automate is talking to a knowledge base. Avaamo Answers, which is the product that talks to knowledge bases, helps users initiate a dialogue with millions of documents buried in silos across the enterprise. Whether it's reducing support tickets in IT, your employees could ask, hey, what's the attachment size limit in Outlook? Or whether it's answering claims inquiries in insurance or clarifying healthcare benefits in HR. Avaamo Answers let you converse with your documents and receive a context-aware answer. Avaamo Answers builds on advances in transfer learning to deliver a uniquely bidirectional, context-aware and hyper-personalized user experience. So where are your documents hidden? Make a list of the documents you want knowledge extracted from. The second type of conversation we automate is talking to an enterprise application. We integrate with more than 200 of the most common business applications used in the enterprise today, out of the box. This includes CRM and marketing platforms like Salesforce, SAP and Oracle, ITSM tools like ServiceNow and BMC Remedy, and in the supply chain world, tools like SAP. Of course, there are many more, including many vertically focused tools. As I mentioned to you, we integrate with 200 plus enterprise applications. Make a list of the integrations you need. The third type of conversation we automate is talking to a contact center. You all know those phone trees you get when you call your cable company, press 1 for this, 2 for that. So if you have a contact center, we can automate 40 to 70% of all your calls, depending on what industry you are in. So if your phone tree had 10 options that were handled by human agents before, conversational AI could take away up to 7 of those. So are you looking to automate your call center? What are your use cases? After years in the conversational AI industry, we realized that every virtual assistant has a workflow, has training data relevant to that workflow, and an NLU engine to understand your industry. Something that allows you to build a vertical specific integration to your system of record, whether it's a CRM like Salesforce or an incident management system like ServiceNow or Zendesk, or for HR integration into a tool like Workday. Then there's a channel where you want to deliver it, whether it's web, mobile app, or any type of messenger like WhatsApp for business. What if you could take all of this and pack it into a single unit of work? That's what we did. What if you could drag and drop it to get you up and running? That's what an Avaamo enterprise skill does. We've done it for many industries. In fact, there are 8,000 skills. These skills will allow you to create rapid conversation and virtual assistants faster than anyone else in the industry. As I mentioned to you before, we have skills for 6 vertical industries, and if you don't fall under these industries, we have it for employee self-service, IT service desk, and managing supply chain. Things that every company needs. So whether it's account management in banking or order management in retail, whether it's policy management in insurance or incident management in a service desk, Avaamo virtual assistants are already helping millions of customers and employees every day. Students find their classes, patients manage their medications, and employees ask virtual assistant HR related questions all the time. So visit the Avaamo Skillstore. It's as easy as the App Store on your phone. Pick the skills you want to use. We made it really easy for you. Now you're ready for takeoff. Let's look at your pre-flight checklist. So what is the goal with this virtual assistant initiative? What are the key functions? What are the interactions? What is the target audience? Why are these use cases important to you as a business? Who's leading the initiative? What is the timeline? Is there a critical event? What's driving the urgency? What systems does the bot integrate with? What do these integrations do? Do you have a live agent system? Can we get the transcripts for that? What content do you have to help train the bot? Remember those documents? And examples include chat transcripts, call logs, website content, PDFs, knowledge base articles, and all of this. What channels do you want to deploy on? Web, mobile, Facebook Messenger, Alexa, Google Home, whatever it is. And what channels do you want to, want the bot to support? aside from English, right? So these are all the things that you should be thinking about, and these are all the things that we need, and you're ready to take off. Now it's time to create a roadmap for your use cases. We suggest starting small. That way you can solve something meaningful, show some success, and get everyone in your organization behind you. Start off with automating simple functionality. Pick web and mobile as your first channels. Text first, and you can add voice later. Start off with 1 or 2 key integrations to systems of record. Start off with one language. We recommend English first. Serve one persona, a customer, an employee, or a partner. Then slowly expand. You can add more functionality. You can add more channels like WhatsApp or Skype for Business, or whatever your end users commonly use. You can add more integrations. We can then go and support more languages. And then you can serve more personas as time goes on, as your user adoption goes up, as your confidence increases. So we learned today about technology basics, setting clear business goals, and project scoping. In our next session, we will be looking at how to deploy your first virtual assistant in 6 to 8 weeks. We will also be looking at some of Avaamo's customer success stories. Thank you. And now Abhi and I are happy to answer any questions for you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So, Abhi, looks like we have a question here. This is someone from Brazil, it looks like. And she's asking, how do you handle a language like Portuguese? And how does this work for a different language?
Right, that's a great question. And one of the ways that I think in order to answer this question, we have to understand how we learn first in English, and then how we can kind of work quickly to onboard new languages. So Avamo has a number of patents in the space of sparse data analysis, right? So what this means is we've built technology and algorithms to be able to quickly understand from limited amounts of data, right? So what you need 3 things in order to improve language understanding. You need data, you need the intelligent algorithms, and then you would ultimately want high accuracy in that language. So lots of companies will focus on gathering more and more data, and then in resource heavy languages like English, there's never a limit of the amount of data that you can use to learn from English. That's not usually a problem. You can kind of build very successful high accuracy algorithms for English. For low resource languages, it becomes a little more difficult. Portuguese is not a low resource language, but there are some low resource languages like Tagalog, for example, right? No one really will speak Tagalog. And so how do you build a system that can learn in quickly from limited amounts of data? That was kind of the original challenge that Avamo took on. And in kind of going along with that challenge and trying to solve that challenge, the kind of lessons we've learned can be applied to quickly onboarding new languages with limited data. So our algorithms perform really well in sparse data environments because we're able to extract more meaning from the same data, right? So we've focused a lot on improving the intelligence architecture for our algorithms. So with a new language for our system like Portuguese, we would quickly be able to onboard the same amount of intent analysis, the same amount of entity extraction, same amount of learning, and we can kind of leverage that and do that quickly for new languages. So Avamo out of the box now, after kind of doing all this work over the many years that we've been around, I think we've been around for over half a decade now, we've been able to develop these kind of specialized language models for a number of different languages. So we support 90 plus languages out of the box. and are currently live in 23, I think 23 to 25 languages around the world, many of which are either multilingual languages. So what I mean by that is, users will come in and they'll speak in Portuguese, and then they'll also speak in English at the same time to a virtual assistant. I know I'm originally from Japan, so I know in Japan people will speak Japanese and English together at the same time when they're interacting in chat transcripts and things like that. And so our system can not only understand unique languages and be able to build complex virtual assistants in those languages like Portuguese or Japanese or Mandarin, we're also able to do that in a multilingual, bilingual setting in that same conversation. And so all of that can kind of be provided out of the box, which is an exciting kind of level that we've reached after being able to do sparse data analysis, and over the past half a decade being able to onboard new languages very rapidly into our system.
All right, thanks for that answer, Abhi. Looks like we have one more, and it's a two-part question. I'm going to give you the first part. So they're asking, do you have, how do you build a new model for each use case?
Yeah, so that's a great question. If you recall, one of the slides that I showed you, it was called the Holy Grail of NLU. Many companies will have machine learning models for a use case and maybe in one language, and that's where they stop, right? And so Avaamo has actually gone much further than that, and we're able to tackle multiple different use cases and multiple different languages as well. So the way that we're able to do that for language, I've just explained. Now on the use case side, what we do is we build, again, specific domain models for new domains. So for healthcare, what we have, healthcare specific machine learning models that understand healthcare language, as we've seen in entities and intents. And then we have the same kind of understanding of the domain for retail, for banking, for insurance, for finance, that we have for healthcare. And the way that we were able to then take this and kind of scale it up for specific use cases in those domains is by creating what's known as skills in our platform. So we take the understanding of the language, combine it with the conversation logic, the flow of that conversation, and at the end, attach it to a fulfillment system, kind of an integration or an API at the back end. And these three things packaged together is what we call a skill, right? And a skill is, if you're familiar with Alexa or Google Home, these are different things that you can teach a virtual assistant. So for us, these enterprise skills constitute new use cases, right? And over the past, again, 5+ years or so, we've been able to build up a massive repository of enterprise skills that encompass these new use cases in these particular domains. So we have a set of healthcare skills, right? We have a set of finance skills. We have a set of service desk skills, help desk skills, right? And so these skills are easy then for a customer to take, customize for their own purposes, and be able to quickly kind of onboard a new conversational virtual assistant to tackle complex use cases without having to start from scratch. And so in a nutshell, that's how we tackle new use cases, is by building them into these skills that we then can share and can customize as needed based on a new engagement with a client.
Okay, so the second part of that question was, we are in the hotel business. How can Avaamo help us? So let me take that. We can automate your contact center, or we can help you with ITSM and serve your employees, or we can also help you with a sales assistant. Like, I don't know, a room finder for our customers. You know your business the best. And hopefully you got a good idea how to pick a use case during this webinar, and get in touch with us. We're more than willing to help you through this process. Okay, so that's all we have for today, and we hope to see you next week, same time and same place. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.